My next guest is a man who has had an extraordinary influence over the careers of some of the most prominent jockeys over the last 2 decades. He delivered 3 Jockeys Championships to Richard Hughes. He delivered the same amount to Ryan Moore. Our guest earlier, Jim Crowley, was made champion jockey by the endeavours of this man, in addition to his own hard work, of course. This year, William Buick fell just short. Was this the one that got away for Tony Hind? We'll find out shortly, but it's worth pointing out that yesterday there were 6 races at Ascot on Champions Day, and Hind was responsible for the winners of 5 of them, courtesy of Crowley's treble, and wins also for Mickael Barzalona and for William Buick. Tony, welcome.
Pleasure, Nick.
Of course, when we first arranged this date, you were probably thinking that this might coincide with another glorious coronation for one of your boys in William Buick. How are you feeling about just missing out this time, the one that got away?
Well, I'm fine about it all because, you know, that next year's another year. And William's only 33, so he's got quite a lot of time on his hands. And, halfway through the week, I thought, you know, we would do it. But it just wasn't to be this year.
I spoke to you on, I think it was Wednesday morning, and you seemed incredibly chilled out for a guy that was coming up to his most important couple of days of the year.
Well, I've been here many times before, in winning and in defeat, and I know what it's like. So you can't really let the pressure get to you too much. Once you've booked the rides, it's out of your hands and it's up to the jockey. I can only get him on the best horses, well, that I possibly can, through a lot of good help from a lot of trainers that we never ride for anyway. But there's a lot of work that goes into it behind the scenes. Like I have to look to see, like when I got him on Tim Easterby's, I asked for the ride because David Allen was suspended, and he kindly gave me the ride because I thought the horse had a very good chance as well in a, albeit a mediocre race, but his form stats really stood out well. But when he was drawn 16, I thought that was the end of that. But William gave him a masterclass ride, and it was things like that. I thought it was going to go well, but the big day, when I thought I'd do it, was I was talking to Chris Humpleby, James Dawes' agent, on the Friday, and we just finalised Goodwood on the Sunday. And he said, geez, you'll have a good day Sunday. And I said, no, don't worry about Sunday, wait till Monday. And we know what happened Monday at Wolverhampton.
Yeah, and that was the day when he had 3 horses withdrawn,
yeah.
2 right before the start, and then he rode 3 seconds.
Well, one, yeah, he did. The last 3 rides were second. So he won the first one on Pocket the Profit. That won well, so that would have given him good adrenaline. Then the next one ran away with him. Oh, sorry, no, and then Amalfi Bay didn't run its race. Mm-hmm. And then Poet's Word, I think it was called, Poet of Mr. Variance. Mm-hmm. That was very well fancied. And he'd bolted to the start, so he was withdrawn. William wasn't happy with the favourite in the next, so he's told the vet, you know, he wasn't happy with him, so he got withdrawn. And lo and behold, the next one the vet pulled out, it was, I think he was 4 to 6 or something, infrared of Mr. Meads. Mm-hmm. And he pulled him out like with 12 minutes before William was to go out into the paddock.
So that's the day that changed.
Yeah.
If you look back on it, if I was going to say to you, where did it go wrong, Tony? That was the...
I think it was that day. Even though we got to Chelmsford and we got back to 1 behind again from, 8-9 days before we were 12 behind. And I just kept trying to give William as much confidence as I could. I said, look, I've been here many times. And he was in great form. I mean, it wasn't fazing him at all. And I was so proud of him. And I'm still proud of him for what he's achieved. And, next year, Mr. Murphy's going to have to, and his agent, they're going to have to be on their A game.
All right, so I'd go back and ask you where it went wrong. I mean, to what extent do you micro-analyse this? Or do you try at the end of the season to look at it in the round and start thinking, right, what could we have done earlier in the year? What could we have done?
You can't change what's in the past. There's times when I said, I could have rode that, but I chose to rode this. But there'll be times when I could have rode that and I rode this and I was on the right one. So it sort of works itself out. But I suppose the other thing that really hurt William was the 11-day ban at Royal Ascot.
Yeah.
And that's very unusual for him.
And that pretty much That was really the most significant factor, I suppose. You talk about how he was in great form and he was in great spirits going into it. That is counter to the narrative that we get fed now, which is that these fights for the jockeys' titles, they just fry jockeys' brains. They wipe them out mentally. We shouldn't really be doing it. I mean, what you're telling me is something completely different.
Well, it depends on the nature of the beast. I mean, William he's got a very good level brain, and I mean, I said to him, look, we're going to have a really hard month the last 4 weeks. I think the latest I went to bed was at 9:30. I was in bed at 9 o'clock. I was getting up at 4:10, 5 o'clock. Because I've got 5 other jockeys to look after as well. So it's not just William Buick I'm dealing with, it's my other 5 boys. And so I made sure I was in bed at 9 o'clock, 9:30 for the last month. So I got all the other 5 sorted out as well as William. And I just thought his brain was in a good place. He never once fazed me of thinking his brain's going to be fried, because it wasn't. He wasn't fried. He was enjoying it.
Have you ever been in a situation with any of your jockeys previously who've won championships where you've thought, oh God, I can't wait for this to be over?
Jim Crowley, I suppose, because it was still mathematically doable with 3 or 4 days to go. But I was so confident because we were in the driving seat. We weren't looking over our shoulders, and I think Sylvester. I think he got to a stage where, look, he's a boxer, he's a fighter, Sylvester, and he's a man you don't really want to take on. But Jim got on such a good run. I mean, I think he rode something like 39 winners in 1 month, and then 44 or 46 the following month, and that sort of sealed the deal. But Richard Hughes is, well, not when I won it, it was when we lost it, the very first time I went for it. I think it was 2012, I can't remember, when we was taking on Paul Hannigan. But we went into the last day at Doncaster. I think we were 1 winner behind, and he was on 5 favourites, and 2 of them were something like 4-9, and the ground was really bad. And I went to Doncaster that day knowing he'd be champion. I knew it. And I got there, and, well, I wasn't in a very good place coming home.
So it can get you. It does get you.
It can, but once you, like today, in today's world, when you book your last mounts on the Saturday of Kipco Champions Day, it's completely out your hands. And then when Oisin won on Whitehaven, was it called, and then went 2 ahead, I said, 3 ahead, sorry. I thought, well, that's the end of that. But I did say to William, I said, believe you can ride 3 winners on Saturday. And I said, look, it's going to be nigh on impossible. Look, Jim Crowley did it. So it can be done.
We spoke with Jim earlier, and I want to talk about him a little bit more in a moment. But first of all, Tony, I want to know where this slightly insane journey, obsession began.
It was when I made Ryan champion for the first year in 2006, and he was mainly the instigator to me wanting to make champions, because when his father rang me to look after him, I went to see him, and I just loved him straight away from day one. I mean, I remember saying to him, he come out, his father pulled him out in the weighing room, and he said, "This is Mr. Hind." And I said, "Right, my name's Tony." And I said, I'll make you champion apprentice next year, then I'll make you champion jockey. And I don't know, for the good Lord, what it was that told me. Even Gary said, "How do you know that?" I said, "I don't know. You'd have to ask him upstairs. But he's going to be the next Piggott." And I wasn't far wrong.
Had you seen anything of him to...
Well, I went to Lingfield to watch him ride in 2 races when his dad had rung me the day before. And then I just saw something. I don't know what it was I saw. I watched race by race. He didn't win either of them. But when he spoke to me, his demeanour was fantastic. Everything I wanted in a kid. I thought, this kid's going to go places. I don't know what it was. I don't know why I said to him, "I'm going to make you champion next year, now I'm going to make you champion jockey," but that was on my brain to do it. And then when I made him champion in 2006, I loved it. I just sort of got an adrenaline, a buzz out of it through being what I said to him and it coming to fruition, making him champion apprentice, making him champion jockey. And then I'd done it again twice more for him. He'd have probably won it 6 times, but through, unfortunate circumstances. And, I've loved looking after him since day one. It'll be our 20th season next year. He's like a son to me without the blood. And, he's a wonderful, wonderful person as well.
Good. Just expand on that a little bit, because obviously Ryan is quite a private person. He gives what he needs to give in terms of interviews and so forth. What do you know of Ryan Moore, the person?
Well, I know him is... if you start talking to him about anything outside of horse racing, you've got him all day. He's a wonderful person. You start talking about football and you can have him for an hour. And he's so intelligent. And, when, the press talk about him in the way which I don't like, but at the end of the day, he goes racing, he rides for his owners, he rides for his trainers. And when he goes past the post, no matter what he wins, he's always thinking of the next race, what he's riding in the next.
And for you as an agent, that must be everything.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's everything. And he's we very rarely have a cross word. He leaves everything to me, which is wonderful, like all my jockeys do. Very rarely. I mean, sometimes I'll probably speak to Ryan 3 or 4 times a week. And most jockeys, they like me to get on with it. They don't like to bother me. They'll ring me, like if they ride a horse work in the morning, and they'll say, put this down in the diary. And I remember Richard Hills rang me one morning and said, put this horse down in the diary. I said, right, he said, Bayed. I said, how do I spell that? So he said, Baeed. So I said, right. He said, put it in block capital letters. So I said, really? He said, yes, so I did. He said, that is a very, very good horse. And like my jockeys say, they'll get off horses and they'll say, yep, put this down in the diary. Like I'll have a Ryan Moore, William Buick, Jim Crowley, David Egan, Pat Dobbs and Jason Watson, all their own pads. So when there's a horse they need to tell me, I have to write it down, or if it hasn't got a name, I do the breeding and do the colour of the horse. So I know, and today you can put them in your horse trackers, so, it will flag up if I see it, but I normally see it before that tells me.
Dave Roberts is the other agent that I've had on this show, and he delivered 20 championships to Mickael and another load of championships to Richard Johnson as well. He's famous for darkened room, never gets out, sitting there completely driven, dedicated 24/7 existence. You might get him to appear on TV once in a blue moon. You're not quite like that, are you? I see you around.
Yes, my wife and me, we go racing to Newmarket. That's it. We love going to the July course and the Rowley Mile on a Saturday. Every Saturday if we can. That's our sort of, get me away from the computer, get me away from the office day. We go out for meals at night, but that's it. Not a pub person. I was sort of half a recluse before lockdown, and I think I became a full recluse, but that's all we do now, I'm 61 now, so kids have grown up. So we just we have our holidays in Tenerife. And that's about all I do. I just lock myself. I've got an office that I built in the back of my garden, and I live in that. I don't come out of it. I have 4 months off. I don't work from after Hong Kong. I don't do all I do now since I've had William for the last 2 years is I help him through with the carnival at Dubai.
Which is not a bad place to be, given the amount of prize money on offer there. Is the relationship with these jockeys, is it, obviously you become quite fond of them, but is it a purely transactional one, or are you there as a mentor as well? Are you there as an advisor, a mentor?
Well, if things go wrong, I like to ring them and assure them, tomorrow will be a better day, I say, at the end of the day, they're only horses running around a field, yeah? I say, so... I know how you feel. You could have a jockey look at the paper and he's got 6 favourites and comes away with nothing. And, you know, that's hard to take for a top-class jockey. That's hard to take for any jockey. But you have to try and reassure them. Say, listen, my best way is saying, listen, you'll have free tomorrow, don't worry.
Are there jockeys you've turned down?
Yeah.
High-profile jockeys you've turned down? And what would make you turn one down?
I had 14 jockeys 2 years ago. And then I got an illness. So my wife says to me, look, you know, you better cut down on the jockeys. So I wanted to get a bit of advice from a good man that I know very well, that I've dealt with for 25 years in Roger Charlton, and I rang Roger and told him my situation, and I said, do you think, you know, it's hard for me to let down jockeys and say, you know, I'm going to move on, let them move on. It's hard for me to do that because they're my family. But Roger Charlton said to me, look, it'll be the best thing for you, Tony, and I think your wife's right and you're doing the right thing. So I cut down from 14 to 6. And that makes life an awful lot easier for myself.
What sort of people do you like looking after?
Ryan Moore's. William Buick's, Jim Crowley's.
But is there something that, I mean, they're all very different people. David Egan, likewise, Richard Hughes. They're all quite different. What is the common thread between all of them, apart from ability?
It's their nature, their demeanour. You know, you got Ryan Moore, non-drinker, non-smoker. Same with Crowley. Same with Jason Watson. Same with David Egan. Same with Pat Dobbs. You know, they're all. They just have wonderful ways about them. Always keeping themselves fit. Like I know never to ring jockeys between 10 and 12 because they're always in the gym. They're always, and I don't want to bother them. If I ring them for, I've got to talk, well, I won't, I'll text him. But they keep themselves very, very fit. And, you know, that's what I love about them, that they're dedicated.
But somebody like Richard Hughes, for example, he was more of a flair jockey, wasn't he? He was. He wouldn't mind me saying he wasn't someone who led a kind of monastic lifestyle.
No, I love Richard. I had a lump in my throat the day he rang me to tell me he was calling it a day. So
what did you love about working with him? Totally different character to Ryan Moore.
Because he was like, to be perfectly honest with you, I remember reading his book, and I rang Jimmy Fortune, who I'd looked after for 25 years, and I said, Jimmy, I've just read Richard Hughes' book. I said, he wasn't like that, was he? And he just said, Tony, yes, he was.
But he was, by the time you started looking after him,
he was
different.
I mean, look, do I need to tell people what Richard Hughes is like? He was his finesse on a horse was unbelievable. I remember we went 76 rides without a winner.
That's a lot.
For him. For him, it was a lot. And it was at Glorious Goodwood, or Goodwood. I can't remember if it's Glorious Goodwood or just a normal Goodwood day. And he rode 2 group winners, and it was like he'd rode 6 winners the day before. And I remember ringing him saying, how after 76 rides without a winner, how can you give them horses such prestigious rides? It was unbelievable. It was great to watch. And he said, because the cream always rises to the top. He said, but nothing phases me. And nothing phased him. He didn't care. He was, put him on a horse and he was fantastic.
And nothing seemingly has phased William Buick too much. I mentioned that you were responsible for 5 of the wins yesterday on Champions Day, 3 for Jim Crowley. Jim was interesting earlier in the programme. He was talking about confidence and how he's got that confidence back over the last few weeks and went into the day yesterday in absolutely the right zone. Could you see that working with him?
Yeah, well, I spoke to Jim on the way. He rang me on the way to the races, and he was like a man who was just going to a normal day. And all I said to him was, how are you going to ride Bay Head? Because I can't see any pace in the race. And his first words were, I think Ben Battle will go on and I'll tail him. And I said, just like that? He said, just like that. And he rides with so much confidence, Jim Crowley. I mean, he rings me sort of on his way home from races nearly every day, just not even talk about racing, talk about other things. And his demeanour is fantastic. You know, you got to remember, when Richard Hughes retired, I'd had 5 jockeys. Sorry.
No, go on.
I had 5 jockeys ring me and said, have you got anyone to replace Richard yet? I said, no, I'm looking at options. And then Ryan rang me one day and said, have you replaced Richard yet? I said, no. I said, I've got 5 offers though. He said, well, now you got another one. And I said, who is it? He said, Jim Crowley. So I said, oh, right. Well, I didn't really know too much about Jim Crowley at that stage. So I remember watching him at Windsor on a horse, and it was really piggy, and it really was piggy. And I was shouting to the telly, get off it, you know, but he wouldn't, and his horsemanship was unreal. And then I started watching him ride. And put a horseman and a jockey together is a very, very hard thing to do. And that's what he was, and that's what swayed it for me.
So I look down at your roster now, and William Buick, you're obviously going to try and make him champion next year, because that's now an issue that you need to scrap.
From the start.
Right. When you've got other young jockeys on your books, like David Egan, Jason Watson's trying to come back a little bit, and I'm sure he will, how are you going to try and get them towards being a champion when you've so fixated on getting William Buick?
No, it doesn't work like that. Like I say, I have 6 jockeys, and I work equally for all of them. It's only the last 4 weeks that you really, you know, that's like I say, I go to bed at 9 o'clock.
You just go into a different
zone.
You don't think about that until...
I will concentrate on each and every one jockey at a certain part of my working day. Mm-hmm. I mean, David Egan had a full book of rides at Redcar the other day. You know, it's... you have to spend your quality time for them as well.
Yeah.
Of course I want to make David Egan champion. He's my next protege. You know, you've got David's 22, Jason's 21. So they're my next young boys coming through, and these are going to be high-class riders.
Now, yesterday, you know when luck's with you, when not only has Crowley ridden 3, but Buick's ridden 1. Okay, he fell short of the championship, but we talked about why that was. Then you get the joker in the pack, Mickael Barzalona, whose English rides you book, or going and winning the Kipco British Champion Stakes.
Yeah, it was good. It was.
Yeah,
I was pleased for Mickael.
Calculator out last night?
The wife did.
Yeah, I suspect.
I'm just the agent. She's the boss.
Would you have swapped those 5 winners to give William Buick the championship?
No.
And is that purely based on
4 Group 1s?
Finances?
Because I can win it with William next year. I won't win 4 Group 1s next year on Champions Day.
And is he going to be as up for it as you are now?
I spoke to him last night about it. I said, I'm going to go from the start with you. Are you up for it? He said, what do you think? I said, that's all I need to hear.
And I think that's all we need to hear. Tony Hind, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me, Nick. Thank you very much.
Not at all. Tony Hind, agent not just to William Buick and what a fight he's put up, but also Jim Crowley and David Egan, Ryan Moore, 3 championships, Richard Hughes, 3 championships, Jason Watson on the way up, and Mickael Barzalona just putting the cherry on the cake. We'll be right back after this.